Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War Can We Keep 'em event, in which the Manticore Cub is added to the game. So this week we got a War lore event as well, and they ended up reworking a little bit from the beginning of the week, so I did want to kind of wait so we could cover that properly, because I had a feeling they would end up shifting it. So we'll be getting into that in one moment as we go through all the other normal things. So Manticore Cub is completely useless, comes with a yellow purple arcane if you need to go get that. This thing you're pretty much never going to use. It charms the first enemy, which means half of its damage will do absolutely nothing, since charm hits the adjacent two enemies with the attack value of the charmed troop, and since there's nothing above the charmed troop, since it's hitting first slot, it'll only hit one of them, and will do a 3 little small mana drain. Not sure why they gave it a 10 mana cost. Even at 6 mana cost, it would probably be too much mana cost. Even at empowered with 6 mana cost, it would probably be too much mana cost and would never be used. So in its current state, it'll truly never be used, which is unfortunate. So it's going to be dead content, which you pretty much just get for the upgrading on Leonis Empire itself. Don't forget, if you're still going to be opening Glory Gem Guild and VIP chests, you still have the new Mythic. The Sakurax is still available for until Friday resets, all the way until the end of Thursday. So if you're still looking to pick this thing up, it is still available in Glory Gem Guild and VIP chests. Do be mindful if you're going to be opening up guild chests that you likely want to get it to 40,000 total for your guild first, for your total amount of seals, so you can maximize the amount of chest drops that you end up getting. So if you haven't already done that, you might want to coordinate with your guild to use some purple orbs so that you can end up getting to 40,000, so that you can get it done before this Thursday, or I should say by the end of this Thursday, by this Friday. So do be mindful of that, as if you do it at any chest amount lower than that, it will give less chance of obtaining a mythic, which of course if you're opening them to try to get the mythic, that's the main thing you'd want to make sure you end up having. Next thing, so we have ourselves the chest drop table. This is probably one worth skipping. However, there are a few things that is available this week that is noteworthy. So if we go over to Leonis Empire and click Show All, this will end up bringing up every single troop for Leonis Empire. Every single thing here is available in the event key drop table, except for 5 exceptions. One of them is the Manticore Protector, which is a new troop that came in through World event, oddly enough. It's basically a raid troop. However, the Element Grim battles during the World lore event does count as a boss, so this thing technically gets to do damage against it, but for the most part, you're pretty much never going to be using this for the event, as other options that exist will be better to use than this thing. So you pretty much just get it for kingdom upgrading purposes, but you don't really bother doing anything else with it. And other than that, the other 4 that are not available in the event key drop table are all of the ones that are marked with City of Thieves, as those are only from the City of Thieves portal in the Underworld. But aside from those 5, every single other thing that you see here is available in the event key drop table this week. The only 2 particularly noteworthy ones are Divine Ishbaala and Khorvash. Khorvash, one of the better stunners in the game, being able to get a stun every extra turn. It also has a double true damage into a double mana drain. It's actually relatively similar to the legend that we got last week, oddly enough, in that the Basilisk and the Khorvash both get to do a decent amount of stunning, while also doing some decent amount of true damage. So if you already got the Basilisk, you might not necessarily need to pick up Khorvash, but the one thing you definitely do want to try aiming for if you can is at least getting a Divine Ishbaala. Divine Ishbaala has it's so strong that it's the only thing that gives mana to a bunch of a typing that had to get nerfed from 50% to 40%, so she only gives 40% to all divines, including herself. But main reason for this is she is a double converter troop. She gets to convert all reds to skulls, as well as all greens to yellow, and has 2 enchants, which also accumulates even more mana on top of the high amount of mana that she already has. She's one of the best skull spamming troops in the entire game, and definitely worth picking up, as quite a few teams can end up using. As far as actual meta, she's still meta as well. Divine Ishbaala Quillen with ideally with Rope Dart, but even just Divine Ishbaala Quillen in various teams without Rope Dart, still among one of the better, stronger types of skull spams that exist currently within the game. That's pretty much all you'd pick up, with the only other exception being if you really wanted to try for the Mythic. There's, of course, a Mythic here. If you want to go get it to 10 plus stars, Leonis Empire, it does currently require Voice of Orpheus, so you could try for that. The most noteworthy thing that's good for is an anti-silence. If silence ever becomes meta, it has both immune to the silence off of Impervious, as well as being able to cleanse per yellow, but silence is extremely not meta right now, and for that reason, it's not used that often compared to other cleansers. So very, very rarely are you ever going to be really bringing that out, other than for the kingdom upgrade. But yeah, as far as event keys, if you're going to open any, Divine Ishbaala, Khorvash, if you already have those troops, probably worth considering just completely skipping on using event keys this week and wait until a better week rolls around. But it would still help out with a bunch of various events, if nothing else, if you want to utilize it for such purposes. Next up, let's go over to the Fallen Silent event, which of course is the World Lore event, so let's go change our tokens accordingly, and of course set to those extra bonus ones. This week we have one that can do up to 160% extra skull and spell damage, which will make this quite a bit easier, of course, without much additional damage. That is not the tab I want. So if we go over to Fallen Silence, basically what you want to do here is you'll have an option of several battles that you could take here. What you're going to want to do is go for the highest rarity one every single time, pretty much ignoring whatever the level is. Only the rarity is what matters. The orange one will end up giving you 3 points. The purple one, as you can see here, the two of them will end up giving you, there's two different ones, but they give the same amount of points of 2 points. And these like darker blue ones end up giving 1 point, the ultra rare ones. However, do make sure whenever you see like a tealish bright blue colored one that has a dragon head over it, to always make sure to take it. This is always going to be worth 20 points, and it will disappear if you don't end up taking it. Do be mindful if you keep it there with 0 battles left, like you have 0 sigils for today, you will still be able to go and take it whenever you finally have sigils again. However, if you take any battle that isn't that battle, when you do a battle here, it will disappear. So make sure to always take the dragon head that ends up giving 20 points whenever you end up seeing this on the menu. So do be mindful of that. They did end up bringing back the reward tiers. So originally how this event was released, as far as on Monday, as many of you may have seen if you calculated out the math on it, it was extremely hard to end up getting. It was pretty much tier 7 is how many you would have needed across your entire guild in order to get it done. Like basically every single person in your guild buying tier 7 once. However, I bought the tier 3 yesterday and had a feeling it would be somewhere around here, and it is ultimately what it ended up coming out to. If you do every single person in your guild doing tier 3, with how they reworked it, they basically cut the amount of points that you would have needed compared to yesterday in half. So it is substantially lower, the amount of points. It's so much so that you only need tier 3 now rather than their tier 7. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any way to refund them if you did end up buying higher. However, if you did go and end up getting up to tier 3, this is actually pretty much everything you need, as it gives you the event troop 1, which is of course that new raid troop that came out. Then you get another 5 so you can get it to legend. So at this point you can go use a blue orb on it to save yourself all the gem cost from here to tier 6, which is quite a lot. That's actually, what is that? That's 1,100 gems is what you would save, though of course you do get some other drops along the way. But it would save 1,100 gems as throwing a blue orb here. What a valuable blue orb that would end up being if you're just looking to upgrade the troop. So definitely worth considering. I personally haven't, because Leonis Empire, even after we get a new troop this Friday from Bounty Hunter, will not be able to go another star because it's missing a pet. So there's actually not an immediate need for once to upgrade this current raid troop. So do be mindful of that. But I would advise getting at least tier 3, if nothing else, for this event. And it's like the bare minimum. And it is enough to get the entirety of the event done with the reworked scoring. Anyways, let's go and do a battle here. We'll take the higher one, just it's a little bit more challenging. But we're going to be running with, there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can spam multiple Khorvashes. You can go spam multiple Tigrakis. Tigraki actually scales a little bit higher as you progress through these events, so do be mindful of that. The later you go, the more you'll need Tigraki compared to Khorvash, to a point where you might even just completely eliminate Khorvash from your team, unless you just really feel like you need him for the stun, as there is one troop here that is a dragon that will have 75% spell reduction, which obviously you might want to have a Khorvash stun for, which is the main reason why I'm kind of keeping at least one copy. But Tigraki scales very, very well into this event. It has, of course, as with any bounty hunter, ends up getting used for. But even in this event, due to the limited options, it has a 3-to-1 boost ratio. This is really good at upscaling to pretty much any battle, and with the additional damage that you have from your metals, this will probably one-shot anything you touch, so it's going to be pretty nice, and yeah, works out pretty easily. And then we just go for some skull spam there. Ideally that would kill, but at this point anything will, and it's dead. And there we go. It's pretty much all we have to do to kill these out. And as you can see, as I mentioned, you end up getting 2 points for taking this out. And this was the bigger battle that I was mentioning. You want to make sure you always see this or take this whenever you see it. If you have 0 sigils left, this will still remain for the following day. So you don't need to worry about having 0 sigils and just leaving it there. It will stay there. It will disappear if you do any of these other 3 battles, though. So make sure whenever you see this to go and take it. So we might as well just take it right now and just kill it out to show the 20 points. But yeah, this gives, for whatever reason, substantially more points than any other room. And if I'm not mistaken, while I haven't actually lost this battle yet, if you do lose this battle, you will lose out on those 20 points, and it will disappear, so do be mindful of that, and you'll end up losing quite a bit of points if you do end up losing this one specific battle. One other thing to notice is that this is indeed a special Elemogrim. It's the Eternal Elemogrim. This is the one that you would normally see in dungeons, and it counts as a boss, so if you were to use a boss slaying troop like the one that is available this week, that was just added, you would be able to use it for this event. Would you really need to? Not really. I feel like most of these battles, it has about the same durability as anything else, so it's not really going to take any longer to kill. unlike other situations like raids and such like that. So there isn't really much of a need to use the ball slaying troops. You could pretty much use Tigrakis, and it'll probably scale a little bit better. And from that, we end up getting the 20 points, and there we go. And then we just go into this orange battle, and then into that purple battle, and just keep repeating until we see the other Elamagrim again, and just keep rinse and repeating. And that's pretty much the entirety of the Fallen Silent event as far as what you'll need to do in order to get all rewards. Of course, do be mindful that all of these tokens by the end of the event will switch over to Medals of Seasons. So if you've been needing to get more Medals of Seasons, all these tokens and such of songs will be converted to Medals of Seasons as of the following Monday. So if you want to stock up, you can do so through the stages, as well as buying more in the shop if you truly wanted to. Though it's probably just better waiting towards the next event just to not overpay, especially if you're earlier on in the game. Tier 3 is probably one of your better overall values to go for, even later in the game, just to conserve gems, since pretty much everything is thinking gems these days. Anyways, that's that event. Next thing, so all the things we have going on throughout this week. Today, for the faction event, we have ourselves the faction of Dark Pits. So Dark Pits is a brown-green restriction, so pretty easy to roll through. As far as the normal order, you normally go to this one, this one, this one, this one, go all the way through, check that one out, and then go all the way to the end. This, I believe, is Guaranteed Treasure Room, so you generally take that one last as you go through the outskirts. And, of course, if you just go for rush method, really easy rush, you just go straight line into the end there. So ends up working out pretty decently. It's brown-green restriction, so you can run Forest Troll into Truffle. You can run bee tricks and stuff like that. So overall, not going to be too hard of a faction. The pure faction's a little bit annoying, but with potion effects, it's not going to be that much of an issue at all, since you can just do full AoEs over and over again with the Hex Rat and pretty much be good to go. Anyways, for the other events, for tomorrow we have Manticore, which is a pet, which is basically just a Leonis Empire bonus pet. For this Thursday, we have ourselves Warpriest. Warpriest, one of the worst hero classes in the game. However, it is one of the only hero classes that, the only hero class that naturally has stun. Theoretically, some other hero classes have stun whenever they get hit, but as far as specifically on traits, it's the only one that actually has it. But overall, it's really, really bad and not really ever worth going out of your way to use compared to other stunners that exist within the game, especially since we've been getting more, like Basilisk and Obsidius being a way superior option to most other things. And even Khorvash that's available this week is a superior stunning option by far. So overall, this hero class is pretty much unused. However, you will be able to get some more XP on it nonetheless. And as I mentioned, this Friday we'll be getting a Bounty Hunter event. The Bounty Hunter troop is actually not that bad. It'll be the first Skull Spam related Bounty Hunter troop in the game. So that'll allow us to now use Skull Spam within the Bounty Hunter whenever we want to. So overall, should be pretty decent, to say the least. Other than that, Soulforge. As far as Soulforge this week, we do have one thing that's kind of worth going for, Possessed King. Actually, both the two mythics from Dark Stone are available this week. Both Possessed King and Mother of Darkness. As far as which one you would go for, more often than not, you would go for Possessed King, is the overall better mythic. It is almost entirely used for its final trait. However, it is an insanely good final trait, one of the best in the entire game. It gets to explode 2 random gems whenever it does an extra turn. This is particularly good with Skull Spam and Doomskull Skull Spam. However, it can be used in pretty much any team that is looking to get a lot of board clear or a lot of mana accumulation. It does have a little bit of a high mana cost, but it also has the highest amount of transform in the game, having 3 potential transforms, even though they're all at a % chance. So it has a lot of things going for it, but it's primarily used for its final traits and is insanely good for mana accumulation. It's one that you don't generally get until a little bit later into the game, just because as far as mythics are concerned, when you're first starting out, you normally want to go for things that are resource-based, like Ferrous Raw. You want to be going for ones that can target out specific game moves, like Iron Gut and such like that. Things that are actually like damage sources for the most part, so you don't really start getting mana accumulating mythics until a little bit later into the game. However, this is one of the more noteworthy ones, not just because of what it does, but also because Darkstone is a +1 magic kingdom, so to get the 10 star on it to get that +1 magic is very beneficial, and you get a good troop along the way, where some things like Blade of Lands, for example, if you were to go and get a Blade of Lands mythic and get that upgraded, you don't really gain much of a benefit from that, whereas from a Possessed King you actually get the +1 magic and you get a decent troop that'll actually have a good benefit attached to it. So worth considering if you have the points. Not the high superiority of things to get, but definitely the best thing that is available to get this week from Soulforge. Other than that, as far as the weapons that we have over here today, Pit Knife is only available for today on this Tuesday, so do be mindful of that. If you want to go get that, that is the Dark Pit's weapon, obviously, Pit Knife. But it's only available today, so either go get it by buying, I believe, Tier 3 in the Dark Pits event, or you can buy it from Soulforge for that. So either or. The two that are going to be available all week are rather useless. It's the Warpriest's Verse, which is pretty much just a human double gem creator thing, which is probably the better one of the two. And the other one is Golden Sun, which is something you'd pretty much never use. It eliminates all armor from an enemy and then gains a bunch of gold boosted by armor eliminated. This is pretty much just an armor tier that gives you max gold. There is pretty much no point in ever using this compared to all the other armor tier options within the game, so not really worth getting. If you're going to bother getting a weapon that is available here, most likely Warpriest's Verse would be the best one to consider. As a pit knife, you can either get through the event automatically or just not get it at all, as it's pretty much useless compared to other options that exist within the game. So do be mindful of that. And anyways, that's everything with Soulforge. And let's go over just a few teams then, as far as everything that we didn't end up mentioning yet. So, Ward Lore event, as I mentioned, there's a couple different ways you can go about this. You can spam Khorvash, you can spam Tigraki, and that's pretty much all your choices, because I didn't actually show it yet. But if you go and check the Ward Lore, which you've probably already seen by the options that you had when you were trying to pick teams for it, there are very few options. Your weapons are restricted to 4, all 4 of which are pretty much useless, and your troops are restricted to all of these that you see here, with the only particularly good ones being Emperor Khorvash, Divine Ishbaala, maybe Manticore if you really had no other option, and Moneylender doesn't really fit in these kind of compositions. Street Thief doesn't either. And then Tigraki, and that's pretty much it. So Tigraki, maybe Manticore, Khorvash, and Divine Ishbaala. So that doesn't really leave you with much. The lowest rarity thing that you can spam that's good is, of course, Tigraki. Plus, if you upgrade it now, you're going to need it for Bounty Hunter this Friday anyway, so probably your best bet is to spam as many Tigrakis as you have if you have no other options, and just kind of go down that route if you have like none of the higher rarity things like Khorvash or Divine Ishbaala. Just spam every last Tigraki you have in hopes it works out well with a higher boost ratio, and it should. Because he does end up getting 3-to-1, which does scale with the extra tokens they have and everything too, so he'll pretty much be one-shotting, I think they're almost the entirety of it, especially if you buy tier 3. I'm pretty sure he'll never stop one-shotting the enemy, and while you don't get to double one-shot like Khorvash does earlier on in the battles, you do eventually reach a point where Khorvash does not one-shot anymore, and at which point Tigraki can kind of clean up from there and be your main damage source at that point. But if you do have a Khorvash, do keep a 1, as I mentioned. There is a 75% reduction dragon, as well as a few dragons that have Revive on Death, and you can get the stun on them just to make sure that they don't have those abilities, so that you don't have to deal with them. Ends up working out pretty decently. Anyways, as far as other teams to mention, if we go back over to here, so we have that for the Ward Lore event. Of course, for the normal event, as I mentioned, we do have access to truffles, so honestly, probably the main thing I'd say to go for. It can run through the entirety of the event, works really smooth, been meta for a while, still works out amazingly. If you don't have Doomed Glaive, you can run pretty much any weapon in the game there, almost doesn't really even matter. Maybe some kind of cleanse option if you have, just in case you do end up getting frozen or something. But Forest Troll Double Truffle is essentially the entire team. The Doomed Glaive is just there to speed it up on occasion whenever it is applicable to do so. And other than that, Pure Faction for Dark Pits, you basically run Sledgepaw, because he's the tankiest that you have as far as options to be able to use with it. His ability is pretty bad, but he has 25% reduction with a 6 regen per turn, so he's the tankiest of what you'll be able to use. Plague Rat is used as your mana accumulation troop. You pretty much use it entirely for mana accumulation. Also has Impervious, which comes into play a little bit due to the stats effects that exist within the kingdom. And you also have Hex Rat, which will be able to go and do full AoE damage, and this will be the main thing you'll be using to win out the battle, especially with potion effects. If you're running it today for a 500 Pure Faction, you just go target first slot, keep hitting it over and over and over again, and win from there. Never will you really be targeting anything other than the first slot, even though he does get double damage against Cursed. You pretty much just always want to do it on their first slot regardless of what the composition is currently set to, and this will just allow you to do full AoE, and just keep doing that until they die from your really high damage, which with potions and everything should be closer to about 100 damage when you're doing it in delves or somewhere around there. And yeah, you just keep rinse repeating, and you'll eventually end up winning out. Rather straightforward Pure Faction with potions. A little bit harder if you would ever do it without potions, so if you are deciding to do it today, definitely worth considering. It also has a 3 battle path, which is tied at the lowest you'll ever have for a faction, so if you're looking to do a rush method on it to get it done quickly, it's definitely worth considering if you have a lot of spare diamonds. Obviously not something you do until all the way later in the game, but still worth doing nonetheless. Other than that, Warpriest class, a couple different things you can run for this. It's restricted to Leonis Empire humans. This particular instance ends up showing Mountain Crusher with with triple Khorvash. I'll probably personally be running Dawnbringer with triple of the Falconer, just because it ends up giving additional red mana while also being able to count as a yellow for additional damage. But for people that don't have that, you can pretty much just spam Mountain Crusher to Khorvashes, and ends up working out decently well. And you run it almost similar to how the World Lore event in a way, in that you're pretty much just spamming Khorvashes all over the place. You can't use Mountain Crusher in any other event, but for this one you will be able to, since the restriction does not apply to weapons in the class event as it does in the world event. So you will have access to Mountain Crusher when this class event comes around this Thursday. And anyways, that's pretty much everything. We'll go over Bounty Hunter once it comes out this Friday and go from there. If you guys still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. We still stream every single night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on this YouTube channel. So if you ever want to stop by, feel free. And I'll catch you guys later. Hope you all have a wonderful week. Goodbye, everyone. And thank you all so much for watching.